Welcome to Red and Blue. I'm Ed O'Keefe, coming to you from CBS News in Washington. Thank you for joining us. With just a week left until Election Day, important to remember, already millions of Americans have started casting their ballots. More than 22.9 million have cast early ballots, according to data firm Target Smart. That's more than all early votes cast in the 2018 cycle combined, a signal that there's at least people out there who want to get it done early, potentially a signal of boosted enthusiasm and participation. We'll see once Election Day rolls around. With 7 days to go, just 1 week, I'm joined by two of my CBS News colleagues. Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes is on the North Lawn for us, and congressional correspondent Nicole Killian is in Augusta, Georgia, at a Herschel Walker campaign event. We'll get to Nicole in a moment, but Nancy, I want to start with you. The president today in Florida, where earlier he spoke, sort of going to a classic crutch, if you will, for Democrats, discussing potential threats to Social Security and Medicare if Republicans get control of Congress. Let's take a listen.
If Republicans in the Congress have their way, the power we just gave Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices goes away, gone.
In the Sunshine State, of course, home to millions of seniors. He's in South Florida tonight doing some work with Democrats. Remind us why he's there, who he's with, and whether Democrats think this actually could help, given that polling suggests it's the Republicans in those statewide races that could pull it off.
Well, Democrats need the equivalent of a Hail Mary in Florida, frankly, Ed. As you know, you've got Val Demings, Congresswoman, running to try to unseat Marco Rubio, the Republican senator. And you've got Congressman Charlie Crist running to unseat the Republican governor, Ron DeSantis. And in both cases, the Democrats are trailing pretty significantly in some cases, and when it comes to Crist, even potentially by double digits. So it is a tough uphill climb for Democrats. Seems to get tougher in Florida with every election cycle. But the president made a promise to Crist that he would come to Florida and campaign with him. That trip was supposed to take place weeks ago, but Hurricane Ian got in the way. So the president is making good on that promise now, making an argument that, as you pointed out, is tailor-made for seniors, arguing that Social Security and Medicare could be at risk if Republicans retake control of the House and the Senate. And more broadly, Ed, arguing in Florida that so much of his agenda and the things he has already managed to pass when it comes to prescription drugs and Medicare could get rolled back if Republicans take control of the House or the Senate.
And remind us, where else is he headed this week? And does it continue to be a mix of these sort of more formal, policy-focused appearances, or are we going to see overt campaign rallies with the president alongside fellow Democrats?
You know, it's always a dilemma when any president tries to plan midterm campaigning in this final week, because the candidates who need the most help are the candidates in these swing states or swing districts, but they are also the candidates who probably wouldn't benefit from having a president from their party come and campaign, because they're trying to reach independents. They're not necessarily trying to reach the base. And particularly when you talk about a president like President Biden, whose approval ratings are not the highest right now. They're in the low 40s. And so he's got an interesting slate of midterm election stops over the next week or so. He's going to be in Miami tonight. Then he's going to New Mexico and California. California, you know, a state that you'd assume would be pretty safe for Democrats at this point, and it is. But nevertheless, it is fertile ground for him when it comes to fundraising, and also he'll get a very warm welcome there. He's also going to be in Pennsylvania, a state that he has returned to time and time again throughout this campaign season. He's got a great affinity for Pennsylvania. He comes from Scranton originally. He's going to be heading back there again. And then he's finishing up with a rally in Baltimore, Maryland next Monday with the vice president. Once again, not a spot that is particularly contentious for Democrats. They're not worried about losing the state, but it's friendly territory for this president. He's not going to run the risk of driving any moderate or independent voters away with a last-minute stop in a swing state or a swing district.
Yeah, and it means that he's spending the last night with a sure thing, and that is Wes Moore, the Democrat running for governor there. Seems safer to be with him than perhaps along a lot of those other candidates you mentioned. And, of course, former President Obama is also out and about, right?
That's right. And his dance card is a little more full. He has been in high demand all across the country. Of course, you always end up being a little more popular when you're out of office. And that is certainly the case for President Obama. Not only have candidates been clamoring for him to come campaign for them, they've also been clamoring for him to cut ads with them or, appear with them in various venues. So President Obama, he's in Las Vegas tonight. He's going to be in Arizona tomorrow. He's in Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania over the weekend, and he's able to trot out a slightly sharper message than President Biden can. He's not in office any longer. He doesn't have to worry about what lies ahead if Republicans take control of the House or Senate, and then he then has to work with the people that he has just criticized. None of those restraints apply to him anymore. So he's able to get out there and make the case in a full-throated way, and he's always been a pretty effective campaigner. So you're going to see a lot of him, along with a lot of former President Trump and even former Vice President Mike Pence hitting the trail on behalf of Republicans.
That's right. And, one of those other Democrats that's throwing sharper punches because he's not president and he can is California Governor Gavin Newsom, who spoke over the weekend with our Major Garrett about the future of the Democratic Party and what it's facing this midterm election cycle. Major asked him a bit about how he thinks Democrats are doing in selling what they're running on to voters. Take a look.
I can't believe the other side is winning, and they are right now. I think we have to level set. I think Democrats we could fall complacent and we sort of delude ourselves. The other side is ruthless. They're winning the messaging war. They put us on the defense over and over and over again. They have weaponized grievance. They've amplified a message with surround sound, and we have nothing comparable on our side. It's remarkable Democrats have done as well as they've done under these circumstances.
They have weaponized grievance, he says, and that Republicans are ruthless, and perhaps Democrats could be more so. That is something we've heard more and more from Democrats concerned that the White House, given those low approval numbers you mentioned, can't necessarily be the one throwing those punches. But quite striking to hear him say that about the party overall.
Right. And the case he appears to be making is that if you're willing to say anything, you can come up with a pretty exciting message that gets a lot of attention. It's sort of the Trump-Clinton race all over again from 2016 when President Trump was out there willing to say just about anything. It became harder for Hillary Clinton to kind of break through with her own message. And so whether you're talking about election denialism, or as Newsom argued, scapegoating immigrants, or creating fear about crime coming to people's neighborhoods. The case that he's making is that because his opponents are willing to kind of go out on a limb and stretch the truth more than Democrats might be willing to do, that puts them at an advantage, that it doesn't actually hurt them, it helps them. Now, Republicans would argue, no, it's the fact that Democrats focused so heavily on abortion while they were focused on issues like the economy and crime, issues that Americans care about, that they're doing better than they were a couple of months ago. And I suspect there's some truth to what both sides are saying here, particularly when you see new polling like we saw from the Wall Street Journal just today that shows a really dramatic 26-point swing among suburban women voters just in the past couple of months. They were supporting Democrats by 11 points back in August. Now they're supporting Republicans by 15 points. That is a really profound swing, and it's part of the reason that Republicans are now slightly favored to win control of the House and even potentially the Senate.
7 days to go, and we'll see where it goes. Nancy Cortez for us on the North Lawn. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later. Now, let's head south and to Georgia, where Nicole Killian is at a rally for Herschel Walker, the Republican Senate candidate there in Augusta, Georgia. Nicole, good to see you. I know you've been traveling the Peach State over the last several days to get a sense of how this closely watched and critical Senate contest is going. Set the scene for us there where you are, and I know you've also been talking to some of the football stars' supporters.
Yeah, that's right, Ed. Well, this rally just wrapped up, as you can hear by the music behind me. Herschel Walker is shaking hands with supporters right now. He really hasn't addressed this latest interview from this second accuser in his remarks, other than just generally saying that Democrats are trying to go after him. And, you know, he put out a statement earlier today, once again dismissing this woman's stories as lies. But we have yet to speak to the candidate directly or see if the campaign will even make him available. But that being said, he continues his stump speech. He continues to encourage people to get out there and vote. He continues to draw a contrast between him and his opponent. And in terms of this latest interview from this accuser, we did talk to some Herschel Walker supporters at one of his earlier rallies. Take a listen to what they had to say. You know, does it give you any pause? I mean, again, when you kind of hear these types of stories in the news.
It does. It does give you pause. You have to, you know, think that there is some truth to it. And it's very hard to distinguish sometimes, you know, like I said, how true it is.
So that actually was not a Herschel Walker supporter. That actually was an independent voter that we spoke to here in Augusta. And you'd be pretty impressed by this, Ed, because we met not one, but two independent voters back to back who really honestly haven't made up their mind. That woman told us she was going to wait until Election Day. She's still trying to, you know, figure out who she's going to support. We talked to another man who really was just back and forth between Walker and Senator Warnock and really not sure what to make of these latest allegations that have resurfaced, you know, whether or not it's an attempt to sully Walker's record or whether there's something there. And so for independents who will be crucial in deciding this race, it's clear that at least here in Augusta, some are clearly on the fence.
Which is telling, because that is traditionally, you would think, at least the more Republican part of the state. But if there's still apprehension or concern about Walker at this point, that might signal that his support isn't as strong as they need it to be. Look, you've been there off and on now for several weeks. This is a state that had competitive statewide races in 2014, had them again 2 years ago, back in 2018, of course, as well, when there was the first Brian Kemp-Stacey Abrams matchup. Do you get a sense that the state understands its broader political place and importance right now? Are voters sick and tired and want this over with, or do they understand that there's a lot at stake here beyond just them picking a governor and a senator?
You know, I think it's all of the above. You know, in terms of talking to a Republican voter earlier today, I asked him if he thought Georgia would surprise the country, and he said that he does. He expects this state to flip back to Republican in a week. You know, on the other hand, you have, when you talk to people, for instance, who support Senator Warnock or Stacey Abrams, I mean, in the case of that gubernatorial contest, you know, there are people who want to make history with that race. Obviously, Abrams would be the first African-American governor ever in a state. So, you know, people realize what's at stake. People realize with these contests that the country is watching. They know, for instance, in the Senate race that there's a prospect of the runoff. Certainly, I think it's more the campaigns that don't want it at this point. But, you know, again, with neither candidate at this point able to clear that 50% threshold, it certainly is a very real prospect.
Politics in Georgia in December. It is still a possibility. Nicole Killian there. Thank you, against the dulcet tones of Toby Keith and Lenny Kravitz. We appreciate you fighting through it. Oh, well, hey, you never know. We're happy to go down to Georgia anytime, but glad you were there for us. Buttoning this up with us now, CBS News political director Finn Gomez joins us here in Washington. Sir, good to see you.
Love that
I don't
music.
think we've had a chance to sit here together like this before, so it's good to see you here. It seems now everything is breaking in the direction of Republicans, and this may now really be becoming a more traditional, you know, counter-response to the party in power, much like past midterm cycles where if Republicans were in charge, the Democrats did well. If the Democrats were in charge, Republicans did well. And it all seems to be because of the basic question of economics. Now, you might think, what? Of course, where have you been, Ed? But the thing is, we've been waiting to see whether the abortion issue would really stick. And now poll after poll after poll, the one we did, the one the Wall Street Journal published this morning that Nancy mentioned suggests that issue is just fading as people really worry about dollars and cents.
You're absolutely right. And I think it's a flurry of polls, not just those polls. You're just seeing this where it's also a sense you're getting from talking to both parties where like the abortion issue has sort of plateaued somewhere in like late August, early fall. And now it's really focused on the economy. It's focused on inflation, the pocketbook issues again, the rise of gas prices, all those things that people are now focusing on with just 7 days away. You're seeing that.
Real quick, the other interesting thing that California Governor Gavin Newsom was asked by our Major Garrett had to do with another Californian who may become Speaker. We're not talking about Nancy Pelosi. We're talking about Kevin McCarthy.
Right.
He had an interesting response when we asked what he thinks of the potential for a Speaker McCarthy. Let's listen.
Kevin McCarthy, as Speaker of the House, fills you with what?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, I don't want to say it out loud, but fear. What he's done to aid and abet this notion, the big lie, sowing doubts around the foundation of our democracy, how he's aiding and abetting functionally authoritarian leaders across his party. It scares the hell out of me.
Believes elsewhere in the interview, he said he has a decent working relationship with McCarthy, but clearly he's not excited about the prospects. Do we know what McCarthy has been up to here in the closing days? I mean, is he out and about like all these other candidates?
Feeling bullish and preparing himself for the likelihood of becoming the next Speaker of the House, frankly.
Raising money, too.
Raising money, absolutely. And there's also that sense, again, that he would most likely be the next Speaker of the House if the Republicans do win come
Which
November.
Looks as if that may happen. But hey, 7 days to go. Stranger things have happened in 7 days in American politics. Finn Gomez, thanks to you. Thanks to Nancy Cortez and Nicole Killian as well. Stay with us, though, because Republicans are feeling optimistic about flipping seats in deep blue, of all places, deep blue New England. Part of my interview with one of those Republicans, Alan Fung, about why his race could be an early indicator on election night. Stay with us. You're streaming Red and Blue, reporting across the political divide.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
Yoga and wellness has become a place of anti-science.
Online clickbait.
The algorithms feed you content based upon your own fantasy.
Potentially at my peril.
There's no question about it.
Spreading digital disinformation.
Their entire yoga studio and spiritual community got so embedded in all of the QAnon stuff that it became this sick place.
Why pro-health people are fertile ground for anti-science messages.
We can just go into the whole mask thing. A lot of us just believe that's symbolism for silencing people.
People are locked in this mindset. They've been taught to accept what the medical doctors say.
No longer are you going to be willing to take any medical advice.
It's a big problem that we urgently need to address.
An original CBS Reports documentary streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
We need to put an end to this territorial status.
Will statehood create a better Puerto Rico?
So that we have the same quality of life that you see in the States.
What do you worry about?
Me living here in the future?
They're giving incentives to non-Puerto Ricans to come to Puerto Rico
and extract our natural resources and take over our land.
Vacation in Puerto Rico, and in exchange for that, you don't pay taxes.
Why would I allow somebody who abused me for 123 years to then consume me?
An original CBS Reports documentary streaming now.
When weather turns extreme,
massive and rapidly intensifying hurricane,
every second counts.
Hurricane Fiona slams Puerto Rico with flooding and power outages.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Well over 9 feet. This is not survivable.
You'll have time to get prepared.
You want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
It just may save your life.
Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
people from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We are so excited, we just can't hide it.
CBS mornings are, well, everything your morning should be.
Let's do it!
Let's go!
CBS mornings, starting at 7.
Stories that inform, inspire, and brighten your day.
I've been waiting patiently for something like this.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream on the free CBS News app Tuesday mornings.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Ed O'Keefe. With just 1 week left until Election Day, look at this. Our CBS News Battleground Tracker shows control of the House of Representatives tilting in the direction of Republicans. A state that hasn't elected a Republican to Congress since 2000 is Rhode Island. I went there last week to meet with Alan Fung, the former mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, who's facing Democrat Seth Magaziner in the race to succeed retiring Congressman James Langevin. Among the places the GOP is feeling optimistic is a handful of these competitive House districts in New England and New York. Right now, for example, Maine Senator Susan Collins is the only Republican who represents a part of New England. But this year, the GOP thinks they can pick up a House seat or two in her state, one or both next door in New Hampshire, and one in Rhode Island. Yes, Rhode Island. You ask GOP consultants out of the state, across the country, who they're excited about, and Fung is one of those who they think could help shape the future of the GOP. He's a moderate Republican who hasn't been endorsed by former President Donald Trump. We met up with him at the English Muffin in Johnstown, Rhode Island. Here's part of our conversation. You win, and House Republicans take control. What are Republicans going to do to fight inflation?
We've got to make sure that we spend wisely, targeted strategic spending, no more of this blank checks that are going out under the failed policies of Speaker Pelosi. Next, we also have to make sure that, we're bringing back some of the jobs to our country, fixing up the infrastructure. All of that will help our economy here. And lastly, the biggest issue is this energy independence. While we're transitioning to a renewable energy economy, we have to stay focused on making sure that a lot of our oil and the gas are still coming out of our even drilled but uncompleted wells.
When you talk about bringing manufacturing jobs back, or like your website says, and fixing up the ports here in Rhode Island, it sounds like you would have been a yes vote for the big infrastructure bill.
Yes, I would have. And, and I get it that, a lot of Republicans might not have been in favor of it, but it's important, critically important to, many of, not just Rhode Islanders, people in the New England area where we've got older bones. Not only just talking about roads and bridges, we're talking about sewer lines, water lines that really need rehabbing.
I've been covering campaigns and elections for a little while. I cannot recall ever having to come to Rhode Island to cover a competitive race.
Yes.
What's going on in Rhode Island that is making it possible that you, a Republican, might win?
The small state in the union is going to have a loud voice. We have an opportunity to bring back a voice, a Republican voice, not just for Rhode Island, but all of New England, which has been missing for a few years now. And it's important that we have that balance. Someone that's willing to go down there, roll up the sleeves, be that hard work in a bipartisan manner.
There's only one Republican in Congress from New England right now.
Yes.
Susan Collins.
Yes.
The Republican brand doesn't do as well in these parts. A big part of the reason is because of the guy who's seen as the leader of the party, former President Donald Trump. He hasn't endorsed you, right?
No, he hasn't.
Would you like his endorsement? Would it help?
The endorsement that's important for me are the people in this second district, the people of Rhode Island. I like Susan Collins a lot. She's, contributed to my campaign. I model myself after Charlie Baker, the governor of Massachusetts, Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire. That's how I've governed 12 years as mayor, working across the aisle, solving solutions.
Did I read correctly that part of the reason you became a Republican is because you wanted to run for city council the Democrats told you go run for school council instead, and you said, screw it, I'm going to go.
What actually happened is they actually told me that they didn't have a spot for me, and the Republican Party was welcoming to me. We aligned, especially on the fiscal issues, fiscal policies, you know, pro-business. A party that supposedly has been welcoming to minorities wasn't back because they didn't have a spot for me. Well, the Republicans are welcoming, and I'm proud to be part of a group of fresh faces that's with our name on the ballot that hopefully is going to do some great things for, you know, our neighborhoods, our states, and our country.
So if the Democrats had said yes to you years ago, you might be running for Congress this year as a Democrat in another world.
I'm sitting here as a Republican, proud to be, you know, a Republican that is fiscally responsible, doing the right things for us, and, you know, it's something that I'm honored to, you know, be on the ballot this year.
Our thanks to Alan Fung and our friends at the English Muffin in Johnstown, Rhode Island. But bottom line, watch Rhode Island 2 on election night. Democrats and Republicans say if Alan Fung wins, could be a good sign of a good night for Republicans. Now, the man accused of attacking Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, inside his home Friday has pleaded not guilty. David DePop's arraignment today was for a number of state charges, including assault, attempted murder, and elderly abuse. The 42-year-old is also facing multiple federal charges. A preliminary hearing for those state charges is set for Friday, November 4th. Republicans are hitting the midterm campaign trail, but some familiar names also have their eye on 2024. What Senator Tom Cotton said about that next. You're streaming Red and Blue.
Thinking about it.
Everybody wakes up in the morning and they are pelted with alerts that frighten them, news that agitates them. With this show, we have the time to explain what's going on. These migrants, they've been released. Explain the status that allows them to be released, to slow things down a little bit. What are the big sets of questions for China and its ambitions? Hackers are stepping up their attacks to extort victims. Let's start with easy. Who's attacking? Here's a deeper understanding of what's happening.
I'm thinking about it.
Prime Time with John Dickerson. Stream on the free CBS News app. An original documentary from CBS reports tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely. As Taiwan faces threats and aggression,
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
When weather turns extreme,
Massive and rapidly intensifying hurricane.
every second counts.
Hurricane Fiona slams Puerto Rico with flooding and power outages.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bring you virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Well over 9 feet. This is not survivable.
You'll have time to get prepared.
You want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
It just may save your life.
Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
When it comes to the money you spend every day, we have you covered every morning. Making money makes sense. Weekdays on CBS Mornings.
After decades in the public eye and public service, this mother-daughter duo is now talking about gutsy women. What's the gutsiest thing you've ever done? We go person to person with Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton and Chelsea Clinton.
Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Stories that inform, inspire, and brighten your day.
I've been waiting patiently for something like this.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream on the free CBS News app Tuesday mornings.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Ed O'Keefe. While voters are focused on Tuesday's results, some politicians are eyeing a bigger prize in 2024. And one of those people is Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton, who's following a familiar "are they running" formula. Tony DeCopel asked Senator Cotton earlier today on CBS Mornings if his book release and midterm campaign schedule is a sign he's on the trail to the White House.
I just say, as one of my drill sergeants used to say in basic rifle marksmanship, there's 50-meter targets, there's 300-meter targets. There's a time to hit the 300-meter target, but right now the 50-meter target is 7 days away. And after this election will be time to look towards 2024. One reason I wanted to lay out this book, though, is to explain to our fellow Americans what it would take to turn around our country, what it would take to restore American power and arrest the decline we've seen under Barack Obama and now Joe Biden. I hope it'll be a good book for everyone to read, whether they're in public office or whether they simply want better elected officials in public office.
Let me let you in on a little secret. When they answer it that way, the answer is yes, yes. By the way, our Major Garrett also asked California Governor Gavin Newsom about his own potential presidential aspirations. You can see that tonight on the CBS Evening News. Other potential 2024 GOP candidates will be busy on the campaign trail tomorrow. Former Vice President Mike Pence will be in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And the governor of that state, Glenn Youngkin, will be across the country with another 2024 potential candidate, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. There's also Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who will be in Michigan. And Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, who's head of the Republican Governors Association, is headed to Georgia to campaign with GOP Governor Brian Kemp. Keep that all straight? That's what we're here for. By the way, 735 days till election night 2024. 7 days till the 2022 one, 735 till election night 2024. But that does it for today. You can stream Red and Blue Monday to Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to join us on election night, 7 nights from tonight, November 8th, for all-day coverage beginning at 7 a.m. Eastern. And wall-to-wall coverage begins with a special edition of Red and Blue at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 in the West.
An original CBS Reports documentary.
When folks on the right talk about socialism, it's a boogeyman.
Socialists are always going to promise you free tuition, free healthcare, free everything, but they will never promise you freedom.
I think of socialism as government control.
Wealth is too concentrated at the top right now.
Providing for people the things that they need is actually the world that we were supposed to live in.
Socialism didn't work in Cuba, North Korea, the Soviet Union.
Capitalism is the bedrock of the American dream.
My daughter's one of 40,000 people a year dying from lack of health care in this country. What kind of country am I living in that we're okay with this?
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
The Electoral College sets up a system where every vote is not equal.
The Electoral College serves a purpose and is valuable.
Electoral votes or the popular vote?
It would be more purely democratic if we got rid of the Electoral College. But sometimes simple democracy is not the best idea.
When people on both sides feel that the system is rigged, it divides us.
538 people elect the president. That violates our principles of democratic government.
The Electoral College made George Bush an illegitimate president from the beginning. It's a terrible disease on American democracy.
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now.
Go to the ends of the earth.
Right now.
We got something crazy.
And reach for the stars.
Here we are.
Time.
Yes, it's my comeback.
Hey, this is pretty fun. But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Welcome to the idea of being a human being.
Innovative and truly original reporting.
Look through a telescope and go, wow.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
If it's important to our nation,
Madam Speaker, I want to talk to you, of course, about abortion.
it's on Face the Nation.
How much money is it that you think you need to go ask Congress for?
The why behind the biggest stories.
Can there be stability if Vladimir Putin remains in power?
Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan on CBS.
What are the words you would use to describe the Queen?
Kind, caring, and a nice lady.
I'm here for you. America needs drivers.
And we're here to help.
What are you learning from Girls on the Run?
Never give up and to always keep trying.
You can see fire and rescue is up. They're doing wellness checks when people are trapped inside their homes.
We're going to be okay. We're going to make it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CBS News. I'm Lana Zach. Tony DeCopel will join me in just a moment. In the meantime, here's a look at the top stories we're following right now. The man accused of attacking House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, with a hammer makes his first court appearance in California. He's facing a list of state and federal charges, including attempted murder.